on there. So we have a circuit breaker. So everything has got a circuit breaker. And if you smell electric wire burning, one of the circuit breakers probably failed. So you cut the source of the power off, you cut off the master switch. Now there's no power going anywhere. And you feel which one's the hottest. That could be the one that's going bad, or if it keeps popping, whatever it's popping, like the electric fuel pump. You push it in, it keeps popping, so that electric fuel pump is bad. It's shorting out somewhere. Or you got a nav light, that means there's somewhere a wire going through the wing could be shorted out. And it's it. So the circuit breakers, you want to check them, and on the checklist, it'll tell you, check circuit breakers. This has an annunciator panel light, which is right here. You push that, and there's 3 lights there. One's for the alternator, one's for the vacuum, and one's for the oil pressure. So if one of those lights come on, one of those systems is not working right. Now, in your idling, the alternator light will flicker a little bit because you don't have enough RPM to get juice through the alternator. There. But you want to check those, so that's a fail-safe light. And the radios would start failing first. And most student pilots don't notice that that light's on, or the alternator is discharging, because you can't see it on this. Where is it? Over here. This one has if it's discharging, the light will come on. This light will come on here, low voltage light, the same as this one. Since this is a 24 volt system, when you get to 23.8 volts, that light will come on. This is a 12 volt system, so you come to 11.8, that light will come on to tell you that the battery is losing power. There. And then we have all the electrical systems. We have the nav lights here are roll switches, which you roll them up for intensity, whether the intensity of the light in the air cockpit. Then you have the master switch, which has 2 really. It has a battery and has an alternator. So if you got an alternator fails, you can reset it sometimes by turning the alternator off. Sometimes you might want to turn the battery switch off, but if you do that, you want to turn the radios off first, because you don't want to turn them back on to get a surge of power on the radios. So you turn it off and turn it back on to reset it. It'll reset the system. Sometimes it's circuit breaker. I had an airplane I was bringing back from Florida, and every 30, 40 minutes it would pop the circuit breaker, and I'd leave it off for 10, 15 minutes, and pretty soon, by the time I got back home here, I wasn't going to walk. So it was working. Then you have the taxi lights, which is landing light. This one has a taxi light and a landing light all in one light. Mm-hmm. But you have the rotating beacon on the top. That's an anti-collision light, and it can be aviation red or aviation white. Now, who can tell me what the difference between regular red and aviation red is? You're thinking. Aviation red costs more.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have the landing light, then we have the anti-collision light, and then we have the pitot heat. The pitot tube on the outside, where the ram air goes in for the airspeed indicator, is heated, especially in moisture or cold weather, so it won't get clogged up. Because if that clogs up, your airspeed indicator is not going to work. Okay. So whenever there's moisture and you're doing a check, you always turn it on while you walk around. Then later on, you go out and feel it and see that it got hot. But be careful about feeling it, because if it's real hot, it could burn you. And you never want to walk around, grab the exhaust pipe and check it. You don't know how hot it is. And what happened, your hands will close up. So if you want to check it for security, just tap it with the end of your fuel tester or something, and that'll work. And then we have the mixture control. Now, the mixture control, we push it in to get fuel, so the fuel will open flow to the carburetor. On the side of it, there's a friction lock right here, but that we push up to make it tight. But these things don't move that much. And this is the throttle. And you'll take your throttle, and you're using this hand, so you'll hold it on the side, put your hand on the side, so when you turn it up, you put your hand like this to turn it up, so if you bouncy, and you can do smooth. If you just hold the throttle itself, every bounce, your throttle is going to move up and down, so you don't want that to happen. And then we have carb heat. And what happens is up to 76 degrees, carburetor ice can form in the venturi system. And on a carburetor ice heating up, it's just like pulling the throttle back, because there's less air going through there. Then you turn the carburetor heat on, which is off the exhaust manifold. Heat goes through there. And so that's the friction. Then there's a friction lock on the throttle, is this one here. You push it in and you'll go, you pull it back, you come. So you watch the RPM going. Once you get the airplane rolling, you have to steer it with your feet. And what we have here is rudder pedals. The rudder pedals. Now, the top of the pedals are the brakes, and they're independent of each other. So to get the thing, you steer it with your feet. So to get the thing to turn, you add power and you start the airplane rolling. If you want to turn right, you just keep easing smoothly in with the right rudder, and the nose will turn. Sitting still, it's not going to do anything. So you got to be moving when you do this. And then when you stop the turn, you ease out with the right and ease in with the left. Now, if you take and want to stop it, since the left and right brakes are independent of each other, you want to stop it straight, you got to slide your feet up on the pedal right here and push them on the top. If you just the same amount of pressure. If you put one, the airplane's going to go. And when we're checking, we check the ailerons with the control wheel, and when we turn it this way, what happens, we're going to turn to the left, this aileron will come up, and this one will go down. That'll push this wing down and lift this one up. So you're going to check that and make sure that they're going correctly. And I can remember years ago, an airplane come out of overhaul and they had them kicked it backwards. But the pilots caught it on the flying. And then the elevator, you pull back, it goes up and pushes the tail down. And when you push forward, it goes down and pushes the tail up so that it'll go up and down. Then you have your rudder, which you control with the rudder pedals. And so on the ground, you're using rudder pedals to take off. It's also keeping it straight on the ground. So, and the airplane has a left turning tendency. So when you're taxiing, if you don't have a little bit of pressure on the right rudder, it'll want to turn to the left because of the torque of the propeller biting it in there. So the rudders here, when we're taxiing, we'll keep our feet off. When we need to stop, we're going to stop up here and stop the thing straight. And we're going to put the flaps down. Now, the Cessnas have electric flaps. So you'd put them down at 10 degrees at a time. You're going to take and check the flaps on the Piper. There's a bar between it to Johnson. You pull it up one click, and that'll go to the 10 degrees. You pull it up again, it'll go to 25 degrees. You pull it up again, it'll go to 40 degrees. Now, to let it down, you push the button and lower the flaps, and as soon as you get off the lock, you let it go, so it'll stop at the next one, because you don't want to take the flaps and go down all at once. It'll bang up. So the Pipers have less chance of flaps failing because they're all mechanical. This has a gears and electric motors. And so when you operate one with electric, you want to push it down and wait for the motor to stop before you change it in the opposite direction, because it's a reversible motor and it hurts the gears.